Hey everyone, and welcome to What's Your Call Wednesday. And today our segment's not necessarily going to be about what's your call, but more or less how do you handle this? What is your positioning? How do you look at this in sort of a different sort of way, right? Um, as I talked about on Monday, as we talk about maintaining our focus and we talk about maintaining our absolute kind of presence in that moment, right? That's critical for set pieces. So I have found a number of set pieces that I want to just talk through a little bit more so than worrying about, was the decision fair or foul? Was it right? Was it not right? Right? It's more the how do we get there? How do we manage these things? Because that's where I think if you're too tight on some scenarios or if you're too loose on some scenarios, it can really start to affect the overall game and affect frustration for the players, and really call into some questions on your credibility and so forth. So I just want to walk through some things and kind of talk about set piece management as a whole. Now, granted, some of these clips aren't going to be great. There's going to be a couple things that I'm using to just talk about certain scenarios that are not necessarily set piece related. They might be more man management related. They might be, hey, be aware that coaches are looking at this kind of stuff because when it comes to managing set pieces and when it comes to kind of being aware of sort of how these teams are doing these things, that's where I think it starts to become a little bit of art along with a little bit of awareness along with proper application of the laws, right? And some of them are getting into some very gray area, and some tricky kind of like some trick plays and so forth that you don't necessarily think about um, until you're in it, because oftentimes players will just set up. There's the there's the kick, and then we're going and we're playing. Other teams will be a little bit more crafty and they'll be more creative. So I want to watch through some of these. I'm just gonna ad lib them. I don't necessarily have anything particular about any specific sequence, but look at referee positioning is a big thing. Look at where some referees choose to position themselves, and look at where some maybe kind of have an opportunity to improve or something of that nature. And I want to hear your comments on how you guys choose to engage with players, and how there's a man management aspect, like I said, but how do you choose to kind of be credible in that situation so the game kind of stays within a regular temperature for you to be able to manage it the most appropriately. Let's have a look at some of these, and I'll talk through some of them because I'm not going to have the audio on and so forth, just because I think sometimes it gets a little distracting. So, first and foremost here, I'll just start off with the top one here. All right, so first, you're going to see the free kick is all the way back here. The referee is kind of hanging back almost by the free kick, right? And that might be for a couple different reasons, because he might be seeing, hey, we really only have these players right here. There might be a few more over here, but realistically, he wants to be more in position to see that this might be an aggressive free kick or an attacking free kick. Might try to put this free kick on frame, and he wants to ensure that maybe there's no infringements from the wall or so forth, right? So as he's going through, he wants to see this a little bit more closely, in terms of how it looks. And now you'll see here, you can see this is almost like a read of the game kind of thing, where he realizes that this ball is probably not going to get put to these players on this in this sequence, but he's still standing in a position where he's able to see them, but he's also able to supervise the wall here, right? So he's able to see both very easily, and you can tell he's very calm, he's very confident, he's okay with where he's at in terms of the overall set piece and the setup, right? So I just want to make sure there's no further. No, there's no more in this one. So again, the positioning is critical here, because he's able to see the wall here, even though he's further back, he's still able to see everything that's going on, with the group of players over here. But he has this intuition where he says, you know what, from this position, this ball is probably going to get put on frame, and he wants to ensure that he's in there to see both the wall and the group of players in and around that penalty spot area, right? So watch it again. He gives the signal. It goes in, and it's easy. It's a goal. It's pretty clear. It's pretty obvious as that point. But you can see that positioning is right where he wants to be for that. Now let's come out of here. Now you'll have this other kind of scenario, right, where we're much closer in. We're much closer in. We probably have that same scenario where there's where there's probably a bunch of players loaded over here, and that's why this goalkeeper is kind of lined up maybe a little bit more to the right than he would be, given that he's given his wall majority of this goal to protect. But the referee's standing on this far side. Again, it's much closer to goal than the previous one, so he's able to look at this in a much different fashion, and he's going to realize this is probably going to go on goal again. So there it is. It's a quick one. It's easy. There's maybe one or two that we see run into the frame from over here. Actually, just one. So he really sees that there's not a lot of attacking threat on this right-hand side or on the player's left-hand side, and he's able to go through and keep it pretty simple and maintain his positioning pretty well here, right? And in these other views, I think you'll see there's really not, as we look to see right between the referee's legs there. All more just same views of the same thing. Yeah, there's maybe one or two on that far side, and that's it. So again, reading the sequence and reading the play is critical to understand how things might go in terms of the positioning and so forth. Now, let's look at this one, because this one's obviously a set piece. It's obviously a strike and a goal, right? We're looking at these things, and we're kind of looking at the overall positioning of the referee when they're doing these set pieces, right? He realizes that this AR is on this side. The player taking it is probably going to factor into his positioning a little bit here too. Also, if he has the AR over here, and this ball hits this wall and it comes this way, there might be a player or two hanging out over here too. Then he needs to be able to get over and move over to that position, which is why he's decided to take that positioning anyway. So it makes it really, really easy for him. And again, he's reading the setup, he's reading how the players are looking at this, at the sequence, and he's able to kind of decide, hey, I'm going to not worry about the group of players to the right. I'm going to focus solely on staying with the wall and staying with the goal from there. And this one, that referee's probably kind of square behind where that ball is being kicked. Okay, see the referee there. Now this one is way far away from goal. You can see he's played it short, and the referee's going to come into frame right here. And he's anticipating that we might have this ball coming in short and to be able to do it. Again, it's all art. It's all part of the sequence. It's, are you in position to judge the play and judge the contact based on your understanding of the game and so forth. Easy. Now, I also want to jump to one other video before we really get into the weeds here, and that is not in this one, but let's talk about the infamous, in my opinion, here I'll zoom in on this, the infamous goal area indirect free kick, right? This is the reason we avoid these as much as we can, and it's simply because they are such a nightmare to manage. You see, you practically have 20 players, 21 players inside this remarkably small area, very easily causing all sorts of chaos and headaches and so forth. That realistically, right, it now becomes he's about ready to blow the whistle. The team taking the kick is saying, hey, they're not back far enough. And now we need to step in and we need to address this, right? And now we as, referees, lower level referees, I've been told not to use grassroots anymore, but either way, we now have to look at this in terms of how do we manage this situation? We don't have the spray, we don't have the tools. We have to use our personalities. We have to say, hey, this is how it's gonna work. And then what does it matter, right? When the game is stopped for 5, 6, 7 minutes, and we're trying to manage this scenario so that it's exactly as the law goes. And I mean, you'll see right here, this player right here is so close. There's no way. He should be back on the goal line. There's absolutely nothing there. He takes a step back, right? Now, are we still correct? Probably not, but we're looking at this in a different sort of way. And that's where I think a lot of people will try to avoid this call at all costs to avoid this management headache. Now, there's certain times we can, there's certain times we can't. But we're looking at this in a very different fashion here, right? Because it becomes knowing where to position them, but also knowing where to get it right and where to get it mostly right. You understand? So it becomes a very easy thing, right? Now, you'll also have these sorts of moments, right? Where the referee's back, he thinks it's going to go on frame, so that's why he's done this. Thankfully, it gets played to the AR side, but the ball goes in. Are we optimally positioned for this kind of kick? Where he runs over the ball, he's going to run over into this direction where there are no defending players, and suddenly it gets passed here. He's well onside. It's easy, ready to go. And now plays it back, and it's a goal. Obviously, the AR is going to have a big say in the offside piece of this, and he's watching the area up here. Is there maybe an opportunity for him to scooch a little bit closer or maybe a little bit further behind and tuck behind back here? But again, we have to use our intuition and our opinions of what what play has been. What have other free kicks been like? What are we doing here in order to look at this and position ourselves in the best possible manner, right? Ultimately, he thought, hey, you know what? They've been lobbing the ball over and they've been trying to do it, trying to get an attacker on. This is where the referee can then run to this section here. When it's played short to this side, the AR basically has everything from over here now. And he sees everything. The referee's probably making that angle in to the goal anyway in order to adjudge contact and so forth. He's probably running into the D area, if you will. But beyond that, the rest of this call is for the AR. Now, one last video, and I know I said that a couple times here, but one last video that I do want to share with you is this one. And this came off of a coaching Instagram, right? And it's a little interesting. I think we see this a lot. And I think it's because when it comes to off-the-ball fouls and off-the-ball calls, especially inside the penalty area, you're looking at something that doesn't necessarily get called, especially for the attacking team, but we're trying to adjudge contact and so forth. And we're not sure if one player's trying to block a player off and one player's running or anything like that, right? But this is sort of that sneaky little way that people are trying to get this offside line to drop back, right? And so suddenly that offside line's now back here because he's pushing them. Very easy. White's not engaging here. He's just getting pushed. That's it. And then suddenly there's a promising attack here that we have these guys running in. This guy's now going to push an opponent to get them all on side, and now we're there. Now, does refereeing catch up with these kinds of tactics? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Personally, I don't know if I would see that. I would be focused on the players moving. I would be focused on the ball itself because it's coming from this far side here. So the AR has a lot going on watching the offside line. Suddenly he's going to see this player is now suddenly on, kind of coming backwards and so forth. And that one player might just look like he's running in, right? And this is where being focused and being calm and being composed really starts to show what what we see the game for what it is, right? And like I said, if this wasn't on a coaching Instagram, would this get by? Sure, technically it's a foul, absolutely, it's 100% a foul. But is it something that looks like a foul? Is it something that we're dialed into, that we know that there are teams out there doing this? Of course there's teams out there doing this. You see it all the time on corner kicks where arms are coming up, pushing's happening, all this kind of stuff, right? The Premier League, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago, probably longer now, they made this directive. They wanted to see less pushing, less pulling, and they wanted PKs called for any sort of holding or anything in the box on corners and so forth. It happened for a week or two, and then it was gone because it was just disrupting the game, and it wasn't what the game was expecting so much. Is that what we're going to get here, right? Are we going to see, oh, they have an attacking free kick, but because one little player is pushing all the way through, are we going to suddenly take care of that, right? Is the defender earning that foul? I don't know, but I think that there's a reason why you typically don't see this kind of physicality being called, especially against the attacking team in this way, right? Ultimately, the foul comes to nothing, and I think that's the ultimate mitigating factor here. But at the end of the day, with the advent of VAR, not for us, but for the game in general, you will start to see that those calls, especially as they check the APP, right? You're looking at these sorts of things getting called more often than not. So again, I look at this, and set piece management is challenging, it's tough, but it's a lot about positioning and man management. It's anticipating where that play is going to be, and it's also putting yourself in the best possible position to see where that play can go versus where do I need to be when the free kick is taken. The further away from goal you get, the trickier it can get, because sometimes they play short, sometimes they play long, and sometimes you just have to kind of understand that the first few free kicks or something like that might be a bit of a mystery, and you have to just use your overall game understanding in order to position yourself in the best way until they give you sort of the hint, like, hey, when we're this far away from goal, we go short, or when we're this close to goal and a certain player is taking it, we put it on frame. You'll start to recognize these patterns the more you become engaged into the game and the more you are looking for them as well. And that's what we should be doing. So feel free. Let me know what you guys think on some of these clips. I know I went through them kind of fast and very kind of, ad lib. I wasn't too much structure to this one. But let me know what you guys think. How do you guys manage set pieces? Closer to the closer to the penalty area versus a little bit further away. There's a whole other art for goal kicks. There's a whole other art for corner kicks. Penalty kicks I think are pretty simple. There's a few things that I do recommend to do on them, but realistically, they're pretty simple. That's why I didn't highlight any of them here. So feel free. Let me know what you guys think on set pieces. Let me know what other questions do you guys have on these, because unfortunately, there's not a lot of clips that show the good man management. All these clips of set pieces are either where they're controversial, where they don't come out as expected, or they're just a great goal, right? It's one of those three. Where it comes to truly man managing and getting in, you see it week in and week out. They'll tweet on the whistle, and then they'll go in and they'll talk with players. They'll give a signal to knock it off, and then they back out to their position again, blow the whistle for the restart, and it goes. that's again, that's a time honored practice, if you will, of refereeing and man management and so forth. And it's something that we do game in and game out in order to make sure that things stay under control. But let me know what you think, and I'll try to find some different clips that start to show infringements on these set pieces for your Infringement Friday. Until then, I will talk to you guys on Friday. Have a good one.